Poet Maya Angelou says, "Laugh as much as possible. Always laugh. It's the sweetest thing one can do for oneself and for one's fellow human beings." And laughter yoga gives that release of laughter, and it's infectious and contagious. And it's often used to help people even when they are dealing with difficult situations. It's used in support groups where people might be sharing their struggles with addiction or cancer or other traumas. And the facilitator might invite people into laughter yoga just as a way to allow us to break in that moment, to just celebrate despite being in a moment of great adversity. It's a real release and just beneficial to your well-being. Laughter is used to break the strain of the struggle, to remind people that life's unfair, it's absurd, it's foolish, that we have times when we absolutely need to cry about that unfairness, and we also have times when we'll need to laugh. I once heard an Indigenous storyteller who said that because their history is so sad, their stories are funny. They tell stories of mischievous ravens and trickster coyotes, to remember that life is strange and foolish and often out of our control. Now we live right now, our society of white privilege, perfectionism, professional achievement tends to orient us towards being serious and productive. And in this world, making a mistake can be mortifying, but also kind of funny. A woman texts her boss at the end of her very first day at a new job saying, "Heading out, love you." The text was intended for her boyfriend. Another woman is in a grocery store checkout. The cashier says, "Hello." And the woman replies, "Artichokes," because that's what the cashier was holding in her hand. A person drives up and places their order at a fast food drive-through. Then they hear, "Can you drive up to the speaker? You're talking to the trash can." Sharing embarrassing stories, sharing the laughter helps remind us that we're not alone in our human foibles. We're all imperfect humans doing our best to be human. So humor is a moral virtue because it connects us emotionally to others. It's allied with compassion and hope. Now, of course, we all know that there's mean-spirited humor, which divides rather than connects. That sarcastic or cruel or putting down humor that others, another person or group or nation. Those jokes create bonds between people by excluding or targeting someone with less power or status. And if you're of a certain age, you will remember jokes about blonde women or people from Newfoundland that were really just intended to denigrate, to make us feel smarter or better than those people. And so for humor to be a moral virtue, it is practiced with compassion and hope. It's kind humor that offers inclusion and lets us laugh with rather than at someone when they're struggling or have made a mistake. And that kind of humor can elevate us. It makes us lighter. It helps us feel connected and secure in the moment. And a sense of humor is considered to be a transcendent virtue, a virtue that helps people connect to the larger universe and provide meaning. And it's allied with other transcendent virtues like gratitude, hope, and appreciation of beauty. And these are all virtues that are especially important to cultivate in times of crisis, because they help protect us from despair, and they remind us that there's more to life than this one particular moment. A wise rabbi said, "Humor is that thing that ushers a person's mind from a place of constricted consciousness to a place of expanded consciousness." Like heartbreak, but more fun, humor opens us up to the world, and it brings us out of ourselves. A man gets into the passenger seat of a car after exiting Starbucks. He's busy talking on his cell phone. And once he finishes the call, the driver lets him know he's gotten into the wrong car. A woman is being interviewed for a nanny position, and she is told the job will involve light housekeeping. And she gamely replies, "I've never kept a lighthouse before, but I'm willing to try." Now, these are all true stories, And they've been shared on Twitter over the past couple of years with strangers in recognition of our shared goofiness, reminding us all that we're not alone when we make mistakes. Finding compassionate humor in difficult times lifts us up and brightens our mood. So humor is that transcendent virtue that connects us to the larger whole, to one another, and it provides some meaning to our lives. Writer Thomas Carlyle said, "True humor springs from the heart rather than the head, and it's not contempt, its essence is love." In the Jewish tradition, there is an old Talmudic story in which a rabbi meets two Badahim. And these are people whose life's work was to cheer people up with humor. And they would go from village to village, seeking out the sad and depressed people and try to help them. And the rabbi listens to them describe their job. And he tells them that their work is worthy in this life and in the next. Humor as that transcendent value. Now, these Bedahimim didn't just help the sad people in a village. Their other part of their work was to mend quarrels between people, comedy and conflict resolution. And I think we can all recognize that humor can be a great uniter. It dissolves anger with laughter. It recognizes that absurdity of us being alive and foolish and making mistakes and catches us when we're in danger of losing perspective. And I'm sure you can all think of a tense or difficult situation when there is that moment of silence, when everything can just unravel or get even worse, and then someone will make a small joke and diffuses the situation. So that laughter kind of is this stealth bomb disposal unit. It shifts the mood in a room, radiating out and dispersing fear and tension. Laughter is contagious. We experience that during laughter yoga when we're actually in person and can hear each other laugh, and maybe you felt it a little bit on Zoom, because it's really hard not to laugh when others are laughing, even if you don't know why. I particularly in the last little while on social media, there's a very short video of a baby and their dad. The dad's trying to feed the baby, and both of them are just giggling. They just set each other off, and that's all the video is. And I laugh every time I see it, and I'm sure there are dozens more of these kind of videos on YouTube. It's just, baby's laugh is infectious. And it's true that when we're our most human, it really can be painful and embarrassing in the moment. We are betrayed by our bodies or our brains or our emotions, or life lets us down unexpectedly. We do something stupid without thinking about it. And in the moment, it can feel mortifying and embarrassing. And it takes time for those painful feelings to dissolve so that we can embrace the funny. And in some situations, a lot of time, their reparations have to be made first if relationships have been damaged. There has to be a coming back together before you can get to the laughter. And it's also true that some things just stay sorrowful. There are tragedies too immense or too emotionally horrifying to be found funny. And in those cases, it's really only the people who are directly impacted who can move to humor if they feel that helps. I'm thinking of things like the Holocaust or 9/11. But there is a truth to the saying, comedy is tragedy plus time. Because humor helps us look back at events in our past and kind of put them back in perspective. It helps us climb down from that mountain of pain or righteousness or embarrassment and accept that we were just being as human as the next person in that moment. Laughing together recognizes everybody's inherent worth and dignity. The bleak humor of people who work in war zones and hospitals honors the lives of those people who are still alive. It may seem kind of horrible to the people outside the situation, but it helps the people in the situation bond and recognize that they're together in this strange and suffering moment. And I think as we continue in these stressful, uncertain times, laughter is necessary. I've turned to beloved sitcoms during the lockdown, knowing that they will make me laugh, even as the news makes me cry. And there's this escapist humor that allows me to just hide from the world as it is and feel better for a moment. But I do also turn to late night talk show hosts because while humor plays a vital role in maintaining our personal relationships and in building social ties, humor is also a trickster virtue that challenges oppressive social norms and points out injustice. Hosts like Trevor Noah or Samantha Bee or This Hour Has 22 Minutes help me manage my feelings of anger and confusion by expressing outrage through humor or even just naming the moment and how strange it all is. They help people keep people in power accountable and reveal uncomfortable truths. You might, for example, want to watch Seth Meyers' trailer for the fictional film White Savior, which shows how many films about Black people are really about the white people standing beside them. And laughter diffuses tension. It heals frayed relationships. It brings us together, affirming us as we are in all of our glorious foolishness. And humor can be subversive, and it reveals just how foolish we are by ways of hearing those uncomfortable truths about how we live. Truths we need to hear that might be difficult and painful, but are helped by that spoonful of sugar. Like how there is still sexism and racism and homophobia and inequality and climate crisis. There's always work to be done, but we can do it with an element of fun. Most religious traditions have a humor element. The Badameans in the Jewish tradition. In Buddhism, if you read the koans and the wisdom teachings, they're often sort of absurd and unanswerable. What is the sound of one hand clapping? And in Islam, there is the wiseful Nasruddin Hoja, who will search for his keys on the street because the light is better there, even though he lost them in the house. Humor may be a virtue, but part of its virtue is that it keeps us grounded and humble. And a mature religious tradition knows how to laugh. Now, luckily for us, we have the UU Hysterical Society. This is actually the largest UU community probably in the world, is the UU Hysterical Society on Facebook. There's 80,000 people who belong to this group. And I know some of you are members. And it was founded only a few years ago by Liz James of the Saskatoon congregation. The tagline is mirth and dignity, a play on our first principle. And the purpose is to be funny without being jerks and to create community without emails. On the website, the theology page consists of answers to the deeply philosophical question, how many Unitarian Universalists does it take to screw in a light bulb? Now, the original answer has been around for years, and I'm sure some of you know it already. We choose not to make a statement either in favor of or against the need for a light bulb. However, if it is in your own journey, you have found that light bulbs work for you, that's wonderful. You're invited to write a poem or compose a modern dance about your personal relationship with your light bulb. And you can present it next month at our annual Light Bulb Sunday service, in which we will explore a number of light bulb traditions, including incandescent, fluorescent, three-way, long life, and tinted, all of which are equally valid paths to luminescence. Now, as good UUs, the UU Hysterical Society offers multiple answers to this theological question of how many UUs does it take to screw in a light bulb? I don't know. That's the purview of the Building and Grounds Committee. I'll email them and get back to you after 23 reply alls. None. You can't change a light bulb unless it wants to change. 7. 6, to form an exploratory committee and submit a proposal to the board, and 1, to get sick of the light bulb being burned out and change it when nobody's looking. UUs or Unitarians? Because if it's only Unitarians, it's only 1, not 3. And if it's Universalists, it's every single last one of us. Humor and humility have the same word origin in ancient Latin. And it's because poking fun at ourselves keeps the ego humble and will keep religious traditions from taking themselves too seriously. Humor reminds us that no matter how high we might rise in the world, There's always a chance we will change clothes in our office while still on a Zoom meeting, as a member of our parliament did just recently. And then I actually think in one of the good things that comes out of this pandemic is that with everybody working from home with all of the screens, it has peeled off some of our professional layers. In the Member of Parliament's case, literally, and it lets us connect as ordinary people, breaking down those social barriers, cutting off some of the distance between us. So humor helps. I think without a sense of humor, we would be less wise and less loving. Kind-hearted humor helps us be more compassionate, more empathetic people. People feel safer around those people they can laugh with. After all, in some ways, we can be vulnerable. We're vulnerable when we laugh. When we deeply laugh, we can double over. We laugh until we cry. We laugh until we pee a little. And so shared laughter really implies a level of trust and security. Poet W.H. Auden wrote, "Among those who I like and admire, I can find no common denominator, but among those whom I love, I can. All of them make me laugh. All of them make me laugh." May you have many people in your life who make you laugh. May you find ways to find laughter even in the midst of struggle. May humor protect you. May humor help us see truly. May humor be a virtue. So say we all.